Okay.
Yes.
So I am recording now. I started it a minute or so late.
Fantastic.
But everybody who is missing this, like a husband's at work, a couple
Exactly.
folks, they'll be able to watch this later.
Exactly. So just like with the previous platform, this is being recorded. When the class is over, I will send you all a link with the ability to watch the entire class again. So you can watch it as many times as you want. If you have someone who you're waiting for to get home so that you can watch it together, that's going to be the way to go for that.
All right, let's roll.
Okay.
Let's do it.
So excited to have you all here for the next in our series of online cheese classes. My name is Jill Erber, and I'm the owner of Cheesetique. I'm here with my wonderful husband, as always, Jeff. And Jeff, as I said before, is going to be managing our dashboard. So he's going to be communicating with me about whatever questions and things you put in the chat. As always, I can't see you at all. Only Jeff can see you all, and I can't see the chat. So I'm still kind of talking to the ether a little bit here, but Jeff is my conduit to all of you. So please put your questions in that chat. Raise your hand, quote unquote, in the Zoom. There's a little button where you can say raise hand, and that will indicate to Jeff that you have a verbal question, and we'll try and get to as many of those as we can during the class today. I think that's it.
You have a shout out.
I have a shout out. So my first shout out today, actually my only shout out for the day, goes to one of our newest cheesemongers at Cheesetique, a woman named Amy, who has just joined our team. And what an amazing addition she has been. Amy, I absolutely adore you. I'm glad to have you working with us. She brings with her a very different type of work background, which I've just been so delighted to see how someone with a very different work background has brought all of those experiences and strengths to Cheesetique. And so it's been a really exciting time to have her with us. So I know that she's home with her boyfriend right now. This was always their Wednesday night ritual, was to watch our classes. And that's how she knew about Cheesetique and decided that she wanted to come work with us. So as always, she is home with her boyfriend doing the class right now. So Amy, glad to have you. That's my shout out.
Awesome.
Okay, let's go ahead and get started with this incredibly exciting topic that we are covering tonight, which is our Swiss Sojourn. And the reason that we are celebrating Switzerland at this specific time of year is that at this specific time of year, literally as we speak, probably over in Switzerland right now, there is a festivity that is occurring called Des Alpes. And Des Alpes is when the amazing cows that make all of the milk that goes into cheeses like Gruyere, like Red Witch, like Toggenburger, like Sprins, all of these amazing Alpine style, mountain style Swiss cheeses, all summer from June till September, they live high up, super high altitude in the Alps. They graze on the most lush, beautiful, flower-filled, grass-filled, natural pastures. This is why their milk is so world famous, and why the cheeses made from that milk are just absolutely one of a kind. You cannot reproduce them anywhere else because so much of what comes through in the cheese is that beautiful terroir, the environment where those animals are living and munching during the summertime. So all summer, while they're up in those beautiful mountains, they are making milk. Their handlers are caring for them, of course, but people up there are also making cheese at this same time. And the cheeses, once they are formed, are brought down the mountain to continue to be aged. And a lot of times they're brought down. Sometimes they will age them up there, not usually, but they're brought down the mountain to age in caves. A lot of these cheeses are aged for a very long period of time. So the cheeses migrate down all during the summer while they're being made. The animals stay up all summer long with their handlers. Then at the end of September is the Des Alpes Festival. It's this gorgeous parade of animals. All the cows come down from the mountains and they are adorned with these enormous cowbells. Jeff, if you want to put up some of our pictures.
You want me to show the video?
Sure, we could do the video now. So we have, he's doing the share.
All right, so
screen.
I'm going to share the screen and then I'm going to
show
the video, right?
Mm-hmm. And it's going to give you an option. It's going to be that YouTube screen.
Awesome.
And then once it comes up, you're going to hit play on the YouTube screen.
Play
and it should play for everyone. Does that make sense? Use it just as you would if you were not sharing the screen.
Share this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, here we go. Ready,
Let's
everybody?
hope this works. Is it showing the little guys?
The cows are moving.
No, they're so
It's like
beautiful.
they're going down the highway.
Yes, well, in that case, they're on a little road. Obviously, it's not all roads. They're coming down from the mountains. But this turns into a beautiful spectator event. So thousands and thousands of people come from all over the world, frankly, but certainly from those regions to observe the Des Alpes festivities.
So is that dog that's walking, was he or she like a cow herding dog?
For
Wow.
sure. Can you,
All right, now
are
I
you
have to
still
figure out
sharing?
how to, yes.
So now you want to do stop share.
Oh, boy.
It should be right up on the window of the YouTube.
Let's see. I've got, how do I unshare?
Right at the top of the screen, the YouTube screen that you had up, you should see something that says stop sharing. I'm coming around.
Stop share.
Yep. There you go.
All right.
Okay. So as I was mentioning before,
Not fired yet.
this is a huge spectator event. So again, thousands of people come from all over the world. They cheer, they root for the animals. The handlers are super, super proud to be bringing their animals down at the end of the season. Most of them are dressed in very traditional garb of the animal handlers. It's a super, super beautiful, rejoicing type of festival. And this happens again at the end of September every year. So it's a really, really big deal. It's really, really cool. And that is what we are celebrating today. We're celebrating cheeses from this region because they are such special cheeses, and they are cheeses that so beautifully capture the sense of terroir. Okay, so the sense of the locality of a food item. So not just the type of milk that it is or the type of grape that it is in the sense of wine, but also what is its environment like, where this grape is growing or where this animal is living. And so much of that is affected by what they're eating, what they're drinking, how much exercise they're getting. All of these things will have an effect on the milk, and then an effect on, of course, the resulting cheese. So again, this is why so many of these cheeses from this part of the world are considered so beloved and so sought after, is because, again, you cannot reproduce this quality and these characteristics of these cheeses. So that is why we are here to celebrate today.
You're going to need to help me again, because I want to do the share of the map.
Sure.
And it's not in that little folder.
Okay, it's down at the bottom. I'm coming over.
All right, so do
share
a
screen. Okay, so those.
If you do that, it shares that like an image of the Finder box.
So I would just do this.
And just drag it over.
Yep. No. Hold on one second, guys. So we're gonna open our
Swiss Sojourn.
Yeah, somehow we got into a different one moment, guys, okay? So we got lost our window here. Coming right up.
Yeah, let's.
Well, hold on. Just I gotta. It's not like looking the same here for some reason. Find my the retail folder in here, and that's where the picture should be. I'm not sure why.
All right, you introduce the wine, and I'll figure this out.
You can go back into preview too and open the file from there. Maybe that will work. Okay, so we'll pull up the map of Switzerland soon. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and get started talking about our wine. So for those of you who noticed that we are not doing a Swiss wine, you're very observant, and you are correct. We are not doing a Swiss wine. There are Swiss wines, both white and red. The issue is they don't export a whole lot of their wines. And when they do, it's in very small quantities and only to very specific importers. So it ends up being kind of a tricky game to get your hands on Swiss wines. So what do you do when you can't find a Swiss wine? You find the next best thing. You go to a region right close by, a neighboring region. In this case, we're going to the Alto Adige region of northern Italy, and we are going to do an outstanding Pinot Grigio from northern Italy. So I'm super, super excited about this one. This is the Elena Walk Pinot Grigio. And if you look very closely at this label, you'll see up above where it says Castle Ringberg, it says Vigna above there. And the classification of a Vigna wine means that it is a single vineyard, even more than a single vineyard. It's even more specific than that. It's a very specific parcel within a vineyard. So it is one of the most, I guess you would say, selective, specific classifications of a wine. And what it says is that this wine comes only from this particular small parcel, the Castle Ringberg, which is really, really a cool concept. So this castle, the Castle Ringberg that this is referring to, and Jeff, if you're able to get the graphics up. No?
I think I figured it out. Yeah.
Okay, so if you could pull up, let's not do the Swiss map right now.
No, we're
Let's
not gonna
jump
do
into the first one for the wine that will show the picture of this beautiful vineyard with the castle in the center of it.
Well, I told you I had it figured out.
Okay.
I didn't know you were going to call me to do it right away.
Okay.
I don't know why this is.
You should just like open the file, and then once it's open, like on your desktop, you should be able to share it from there.
You're right. You just have to close in and out of it, though.
Okay.
All right.
Is it up?
It's up.
Okay. So that, my friends, is the beautiful landscape of Castle Ringberg. That is one specific parcel within her vineyard. The castle that you were looking at there was built by the Habsburgs, if you're familiar with the Habsburgs, in the 1600s. So it's a really, really ancient property, both from winemaking perspective, but also, of course, the castle there is very, very ancient. This, again, is made in far northern Italy, right near the border of Switzerland. And it is 100% Pinot Grigio. So Pinot Grigio is one of the most beloved and widely consumed white wines in the entire world. I'm going to go ahead and pour a little bit into each of our glasses here. So one of the really cool things to know about Pinot Grigio, and Jeff, I'm actually going to ask you to put up the next graphic for this, which shows the picture of the grapes.
I'm giving you some warning.
I'm trying to give you warning.
No, I know, but I got it. I'm ready.
Okay.
I'm ready.
All right. So the picture of the Pinot Grigio grape. So the reason I want to show this to you is obviously the vast majority of the time that we have a Pinot Grigio wine, it is considered to be a purely white wine. But if you look closely at the grapes of Pinot Grigio, the words Pinot and Grigio, the word Pinot means pine cone because you can see the shape of the grapes looks like a pine cone, similar to Pinot Noir. So Pinot Grigio, also the same as Pinot Gris, from France and other parts of the world, same grape as Pinot Gris, is a very close relative, a mutation of Pinot Noir grape. So the cluster shape is very, very similar. Pinot Grigio is not a green grape. The Grigio part of Pinot Grigio means gray. And if you look at these grapes, you will notice they are not your typical green grape. They are a smoky, dusky, sometimes a lavender color, sometimes a gray color. Sometimes they can get quite dark. Sometimes they can be a little bit more green, even all in one cluster. Can you see that?
We can. So I was going to ask you that question. So this
Sure.
thing has some redder grapes and then some very, very green grapes.
Right.
And then the sort of, I guess, chalky, dusty.
Yeah.
But are they different levels of ripeness?
No. So that's one cluster. It's all the same level of ripeness there. It's just the nature of Pinot Grigio that the grapes themselves are going to manifest different colors as they mature. So it's a really, really beautiful grape. And I wanted to show it to you because a lot of people, again, don't always realize that Pinot Grigio has that quality because they always see it made in the form of a white wine. Now, those of you who do our Friday night cheese boards last week, we did an orange wine made from Pinot Grigio. And what makes it an orange wine is that the juice is allowed to sit on those grape skins for a period of time and extract some of that beautiful peachy color from the grape skins. So it's a pretty cool thing. So this is our Pinot Grigio. Can I pass you a glass of this?
Sure.
Here? Okay. So characteristics of Pinot Grigio. First and foremost, acidity, acidity, acidity. So Pinot Grigios are famous for being one of the most food-friendly wines on earth, almost primarily because of their high acidity level. They will cut through anything, they will highlight anything. Secondly, they tend to not be super overwhelming in their own flavor characteristics. So a lot of times when we think of grapes like Sauvignon Blanc, for instance, or Riesling, they're so aromatic and they can be so intense. They can almost, even as a white wine, they can almost dominate the party. What we find with Pinot Grigio is it will have these wonderful melon notes, these citrusy notes, a little bit of peachiness, honeysuckle. They can display different flavor characteristics, but they're not usually so dominant that they're going to take over the show. And this is one of the reasons why Pinot Grigio is so beloved by so many people, is because it's not polarizing in any way. It just tastes good for the most part. As I mentioned, Pinot Grigio is super high production. So you will find a lot of, dare I say, inferior Pinot Grigio out there. Some Pinot Grigio that is allowed to be too sweet, for instance, to sort of mask imperfections in the juice, in the grape. This is one of the most beautiful, elegant, just gorgeous examples of a Pinot Grigio done right. It's going to be great acidity, super high in the minerality. It's just absolutely fabulous. I'm going to go ahead and take Sniff of that. Oh, it's got that wonderful kind of citrus thing going on. It's a little bit floral, which is another characteristic that we hear a lot about Pinot Grigio. Oh, it's so good. It's so steely. It's got a richness to it. Super, super minerality. So again, you're getting a beautiful embodiment of fruit, beautiful embodiment of flavor and aroma, but subtle enough that it's not going to overly compete with the foods that you're going to be pairing this with. What do you think of this one?
I think it's excellent. So I want to make a few comments based on the chat though. So Monica's back. Remember we noticed
Monica and her lover? No lover this time?
There's no lover, but she is back from Italy. So perhaps the lover's just
still in Italy. Okay.
Maybe they're on a plane. Maybe they're on Alitalia on their way here, but
okay,
we don't know.
Great.
Anyways,
welcome back, Monica. It's good to have you.
Monica points out that, I don't know, some of her old lovers say that Pinot Grigio is very female friendly.
I can see why people would say that. Yes, because I think it's got a.
Are we allowed to say that anymore?
I think so. Oh. In this house, we are. Oh. Yes. So I would say it is Pinot Grigio. When you say it's female friendly, I think probably in the sense that it's not too in your face. It's a little bit more elegant. It's a little bit more soft in certain ways and can go with so many things. And it's great for sort of casual sitting and sipping. So maybe that is kind of a female tendency. I don't know, but
casually sitting and sipping is a female activity, a female tendency.
I don't know. I certainly tend to sit
stereotypes
and sip quite frequently.
I agree, Lloyd and Marcia.
Thanks, Lloyd.
No more stereotypes. Okay, right. So a couple other comments.
Yes.
Bobby and Jean, and they are with Nick and Evie this evening, and they point
Bobby
out.
And Jean.
I guess they're already into the cheese because they feel like it's a great vessel with the cheese. Is cheese a vessel for wine, or is wine a vessel for cheese? Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
I have nothing if not diplomatic. So.
And beer and cheese class, please.
Says,
yes. Aren't all wines female friendly? That's probably true
that
too.
That is probably true. So this is also a great example because of the quality of the fruit that's being used for this. This is a Pinot Grigio that can get some age on it. So this is going to be good for you for another 3 to 5 years.
That actually, somebody else asked.
Yeah.
Oak, is there any oak here?
No. So we've got a beautiful, there's some fermentation that happens in oak barrels, but there's no aging that happens in oak barrels. Okay. So the fermenting in the oak barrel might give it a little bit of, nice development and roundness, but this is not an oaky wine at all.
All right.
I'm going to drink more of it just to be certain. I'll have a fruit fly. Hello. Go away from my
Have your last taste and let's get on to this Moser Screamer.
All right. We can come back to the wine with any questions that you all have. Female winemaker, which is really, really cool. She started making the wine here, and now her 2 daughters have taken over and are running the entire operation. So it's a beautiful family operation, female run operation, really, really delicious. Okay, so let's jump into our first cheese. And Jeff, whenever you want to put up graphic number 3, I don't want to pressure you.
I am just a pro at this now. Zoom is calling me to work on screen sharing.
Wow,
I'm just joking.
Great.
They're really
so proud of you. Okay, so the first cheese that we're going to be enjoying here today is actually our softest cheese. So if you're looking down at your board and you're saying, one of these things is not like the other, it's this guy. So this is a cheese called Moser Screamer. This is just one of the best cheese names in the world. This is a 100% pasteurized cow's milk cheese. It is also a triple cream. So for those of you who know what a triple cream is, you are probably rejoicing at this point. If you don't know what a triple cream is, I'll take just a moment and explain to you why those lovers of triple cream are rejoicing at this moment. A triple cream cheese means that when you still have the milk, you add additional cream to the milk to amp up the butter fat and produce a cheese that is very, very gooey and buttery and super high in fat. So some very famous triple creams are cheeses like Explorateur, Saint Andre, Pierre Robert, Belle Etoile. There's lots and lots of them out there. So the thing people love about triple cream is they tend to be fairly mild in flavor, and they tend to be very quote unquote decadent or naughty kind of cheeses because they are so high in fat and so rich and fabulous. One of the things that I love about Moser Screamer is the fact that, yes, it has all of those qualities of the butteriness, the richness, the creaminess, that fabulous texture, but it's got just a little bit of funkola happening to it as well. So it's not
a Swiss word, funkola, right?
And yes, yes, exactly. Very technical cheese word. So it has all of those wonderful qualities, but it brings more to the table than just a creamy saltiness. It sort of takes triple cream appreciation to a whole new level, and I absolutely adore it. So Jeff, were you able to show everyone what a whole Moser Screamer looks like?
I did.
Okay.
And we have some comments from Dave and Anita.
Yeah. Hi, David and Anita. I'm so happy to have you back. Welcome.
Oh, and Dave and Anita, I went to the last wine dinner looking for you. And where were you?
Jeff was at the wine dinner.
I got in trouble for never going, and there I was.
He was
where were you?
He was there. They'll be at the next one, I'm sure. Okay. All right. So this cheese is aged for about 40 days when it's released, and then, another couple weeks of transport and getting in place and whatever. So the cheese that you're enjoying right now is probably about 6 weeks from milk stage to being this beautiful developed phase. This is made by a gentleman named Uli Moser, who grew up in Switzerland, making his family, multi-generation cheese-making family. They were Emmentaler makers, Emmentaler being one of the most famous, well-known styles of Swiss cheese. It's the one you think of when you think of a cheese that's got the big, beautiful, shiny holes in it. If you look down on the cheeses that we're enjoying tonight, none of those have those trademark holes. They're actually a different style of Swiss cheese. They use a different bacteria that does not generate those carbon dioxide bubbles exactly the same way. So he grew up making Emmentaler and just wanted to experiment, wanted to try things differently, wanted to research different things, and spent a lot of time cheese making in France, where he fell in love with cheeses like Camembert and Saint Andre and Explorateur or Reblochon, cheeses like that, and wanted to, in a sense, make a hybrid between his amazing one-of-a-kind mountain milk and these luscious, fabulous styles that he had discovered in France. Put the two together and boom, you have Moser Screamer, which again is going to be all the triple cream decadence of your French style cheese with the rich, abundantly floral and herby Swiss milk with just a little bit of funkiness to it.
So David and Anita's comment was that it has a Philadelphia cream cheese texture, at least when you're using the knife to.
Oh, it's so awesome. So I hope everyone appreciates the totally kitschy crackers. They look like little pieces of Swiss cheese. I could not help myself. I'm sorry. So I discovered these crackers, and they're tasty, but they look like Swiss cheese. So you're welcome. Jeff, can I give you a piece of Moser Screamer?
Sure.
Excuse me.
Wow, it's a big piece. Now, is Natasha's fig jam in there? Because Joanna is enjoying this with Natasha's fig jam. And says,
oh, that's wonderful. That's from the last class.
Oh, from last
no.
class.
So
Okay.
Tonight, our accompaniment is a very traditional accompaniment for Swiss cheeses and mountain style cheeses from France. Cheeses like Gruyere, cheeses like Beaufort, cheeses like all the ones in front of you. And that is something called cornichons, which are small, sour pickles. And they're absolutely sublime with cheeses like this. And then we've got, of course, our Swiss cheese crackers. So Moser Screamer, right away when I pick this cheese up and I look at the interior, I see that it is almost like a beautiful whipped butter texture. Oh, I just
It's
got
awesome.
it on my nose.
Did you say it?
May I have a moment?
It's got a
Maybe smelling
funkhauser
that
to
for
it.
a week.
Is that
Yeah,
what
a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's really just awesome.
Oh my gosh, I could eat that for days.
Adult
so good.
cheese, it's Lloyd and Marcia said.
Right, it's pretty much right there. Yep. So please make sure that you are eating the rind of the Moser Screamer. It is an essential part of the cheese experience. If you've already taken a bite of it, you'll see what I'm talking about. The cheese itself almost liquefies on the palate, while the rind hangs around a little bit and gives you a little bit of chew. There's just nothing like it. I'm so in love with this cheese. I can't. It's too good. Okay. Any questions, Jeff, before we move on to talking a little bit about the Desalp, and maybe if you can handle it, putting up some more of the beautiful photographs this time.
I was bragging about my capabilities there for a
I know,
while,
but
so
now you sold
this-
yourself really, really, really hard. So now I
there
want
is
to,
pressure.
you got to bring the game now. All right. So there's 4 different photographs in there of the beautiful cow. So the Desalp festivity, this tradition has been going on since the Middle Ages, this type of celebration, where again, the cows come down from the mountains into the plains to spend the winter. And their handlers decorate them with these gorgeous headpieces of flowers and greenery.
That's spectacular.
Isn't that beautiful?
Oh,
and they wear these enormous bells. And as you saw with the video, I'm assuming the sound came through on the video. I certainly hope that it did. As the cows are running with those bells on, all you can hear is just clink, 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 clink. It's just a beautiful multi-sensory experience. And something that I've also learned about the Desailles festivity is that the some cows just get a little flower, or maybe a little piece of greenery, or maybe nothing at all. But the really prize milkers, the ones who contributed the most milk during the season, the champs, they get the uber ornate headdresses.
All right, so we can see about, maybe there's a few more in the background, but we see 4 cows. And
can
one
you rotate
has,
it just a little bit so I can see what you're looking at? Wait, I'll come around. I'll come around.
One has nothing on.
Yep, exactly.
Her.
Exactly.
So she was
She's
just
probably
totally
new.
Unproductive for the year.
She's probably new.
Lazy.
She's new.
New.
She's just learning her
Okay.
trade. So the younger cows are not going to be as big producers as your experienced cows.
Loser cow, Andy and Andrew say.
Not loser, future champion.
Future champion. Yeah, one-day winner.
Right.
All right.
So anyway, so you can tell by the size, traditionally by the size of the headdress.
Flowers are for closers. They told the cow to put that coffee down.
Okay.
All right, sorry.
You've just made Jeff's day, by the way, because now he has some reference to Glenn Ross. Is that what that is?
That's it. Yeah.
Boy. Anyway, so the headdress will reflect the productiveness of that particular cow. And it's great.
Moser loser, somebody said.
Y'all are mean. I'm so glad those
Oh,
poor little cows
don't
cannot
have
hear
ears.
you. They have feelings and ears. Yes. And it really is, this festival is really a celebration of this sense of a word that I actually just learned in reference to cheese. I had never heard this before, called transhumance. TRANSHUMANCE, which is the notion that moving the animals from location to location will have a very strong effect on the milk and therefore on the cheese. And so there's a great example of this, a cheese called Beaufort from France, which when it's made during the summer months, when the animals are up on those lush pastures in the mountains, the cheese costs significantly more than the cool weather Beaufort that is produced, that is supposedly less flavorful and aromatic and all of that stuff. So it's this huge belief in this concept that where the animals are has a massive impact on the resulting cheese. And so it's kind of a beautiful notion and leads to this tremendous sort of appreciation and respect of the animals that are making these cheeses happen. It's super, super cool. Switzerland loves their cows. There's about 700,000 cows in Switzerland, and almost 600,000 of them are dairy cows. So Switzerland takes its dairy very, very seriously and takes its cows very seriously as well.
Did you notice that in this third slide that I just put up, they're kind of walking down the highway, but the mountains are either way? There's a paraglider.
Yes, I did see that. Do you guys see the little paraglider up at the top? He's got the best, or she has the best view ever, hanging out above all of those little cows tromping their way down.
Right, I got
the
one more
mountainside.
to do here, so we get through them all.
Perfect. I'm going to make sure that I'm keeping up with all of my stuff here.
Oh, this is great. There's a lady dressed in kind of traditional Swiss.
Yes.
garment.
So as I mentioned, the handlers. Oh, did you put up the one with the feathers on their heads already?
I think so. Yeah.
That's so cute. So yeah,
awesome.
so this young lady has the traditional Swiss garb on, and you can see her cow is very decorated. It's got the beautiful flowers, the ribbons coming down, and look at the size of that massive celebration bell. It's really, really an incredible and beautiful thing.
Do we call her a Swiss Miss? Is that?
No, honey.
No. Okay, just asking.
Welcome to my life. You're getting just a small insight now.
All right, let me just see if there's any question. Aerial cow tipping. That's what the paraglider was doing.
Beautiful.
That's what she said. Love the feathers.
The feathers are fabulous. I feel like that's like Cher cow or something. I don't mean cow Cher. I mean like Cher.
That joke was a Swiss Miss. All right.
Okay. That was actually funny. Okay. Can we move on to our next cheese?
When people pick on me, it's funny, right? All right, let's move on.
Yes. Okay. So feel free, by the way, to, of course, be pairing your wine this entire time with each of these cheeses. Before, after, during, I'll do sort of a formal pairing taste with you in just a moment when we move on to our next cheese. But you will find that the acidity and the sort of floral component in the minerality of this wine will help to highlight these very rich herbal grassy notes within these cheeses. So it's a really exciting opportunity to see how much a wine can affect a cheese and vice versa when they're in good balance. And this is why we don't typically want to have cheeses that are so bold that they drown out the wine, but we also don't want wine that is so big and bold that it just dominates over the cheese and doesn't help to highlight and bring out those strengths.
I'm going to ask you a question about
please.
that.
Mm-hmm.
So when we do a wine like this with a class,
mm-hmm.
One
Can
of the things
sip
that
it while you're asking a question?
One of the things that pops into my mind is, why don't we do a wine like this with every class? Because it does seem like it works so well with the cheese.
Do you mean a wine like this specifically, like this Pinot Grigio style?
Yes.
Because there are certain wines from certain regions that will pair particularly well with the foods that we're eating. The reason for this is this very common notion of what grows together goes together. So especially ancient foods that have been made for hundreds and hundreds of years, and wine styles that have been in production in those same regions for hundreds and hundreds of years, those styles will both naturally, organically, but also through the involvement of the humans kind of harnessing the qualities of both, will grow together to highlight one another in a very special way. So they won't just be good together. You will have some wines that will just absolutely sing with their other local foods. An example of this would be something like enjoying truffles with a beautiful Barbera at Alba. So you have the red wine from Alba, you're eating truffles from Alba. Those things are literally coming from the same earth. Okay. And so they will exhibit a lot of characteristics that will benefit one another and highlight one another in a special way. And that's why.
Makes sense.
So, okay, let's move on to our second cheese.
Lovely Clara.
Lovely Clara.
I love the names here.
Oh, I know. The names are just unbelievable. So Lovely Clara, or Desarta Clara. I don't speak French or German or Italian. There is no Swiss.
I know, just joking.
But anyway, so please, like, my pronunciations are just, they're not going to be good. But this is Lovely Clara. Luckily, they translated it for me into English. This is made from organic pasteurized cow's milk. Really, really outstanding and delicious. This is a beautiful natural rinded cheese.
Hold on a second. I got the screen share up. So now show that again. Sure.
It's a beautiful natural rinded cheese with just a little bit of what's called smear aging or washed rind on the outside. So this cheese is aged longer. And so that slightly stinky rind has gotten a little more age to it and has really kind of taken on almost a natural rind characteristic. So this is an edible rind. It will taste more intense than the rest of the cheese. I need to wipe. I know you're going to kill me because I'm wiping the creamy cheese all over this towel, but
we have
that's what washing machines are for.
Machine, yeah.
So this is, again, Lovely Clara, 100% organic cow's milk. Going to find this to be very, very aromatic. So before you taste it, unless you've already tasted it, which is totally fine, give it a beautiful scent test. And it will smell fruity, a little bit funky. You get a little bit of earth going on there.
Barney, yeah. Excellent.
Oh. I need a
the rind, Audrey Davis is here. She says Audrey. The rind is stinky but delicious. Yeah.
I mean, if you taste this cheese, if you're anything like me, you're asking yourself, why do I ever eat any other cheese? It's that good.
But you ask yourself that every time you eat any cheese.
That's true. I do. But it's also what I do for a living. It would be bad if I didn't love every cheese, wouldn't it? I mean, that would be like kind of weird. Anyway, what I will say about this cheese that I love so much, this cheese is aged for about 5 months, which is a decent amount of time for a cheese. Even though it has a slightly firmer initial texture, this is like the definition of a cheese melting in your mouth, of being both firmer, but creamy at the same time. So I will often refer to that. I'll say, oh, this cheese is creamy. And people will say, what do you mean it's creamy? It's a hard cheese. There are certain hard cheeses that still, the moment they hit the body temperature, basically in your mouth, they will just melt in your mouth. And they will give this sensation of being very creamy and coating the palate, even though they started as a harder aged cheese. This is a beautiful, beautiful example of this. This is made by Studer Dairy, by a gentleman named Thomas Studer. This dairy was founded almost 100 years ago in 1929 and is still run by, obviously, a Studer, Thomas Studer. So he's still making the cheese and overseeing all of that stuff. They get all of their milk every morning from 40 dairies surrounding the creamery, who are all within less than 18 miles of the dairy. So that means they're about a 20-minute, 30-minute drive. So they collect the milk every morning, they bring it to Studer, and they test it and make it into cheese that day.
Wow.
It's pretty awesome. Yeah. It's a very, very exciting process. Did you put up the picture of Thomas Studer?
No, I didn't, but I want to ask you a couple questions while I
Sure.
find that. So Bobby and Jean.
Hi, Bobby and Jean again.
Note that, or they think that this would go well with a light red wine, which I tend to agree with.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good with this one.
A Pinot Noir.
All of these would go really beautifully with lighter red wines.
What's a light Italian?
Like a Barbera would go beautifully with these. Something like a Zweigelt from Germany would go beautifully with these. It's a cooler climate red grape. Pinot Noir would be fabulous. Again, cool grape, a cool climate grape, as is Pinot Grigio. They really thrive in cooler climates, as do obviously these cheeses. So yes, they would do beautifully with a light kind of fruit forward red with not heavy tannins. So what you don't want to do necessarily is try and pair these cheeses with a very big high tannin red wine, because you might get some conflict in the funky flavors that these display with the intensity of those big red wines.
So Dave and Anita are drinking a Pinot Noir and so it's working.
Is it working really well? Okay,
well.
Thank you. So Dave and Anita, two of our most frequent class attendees, are enjoying this with a Pinot Noir, and I think that sounds wonderful.
Okay, awesome. So we have somebody who maybe is a little bit new, Nikki.
Hi, Nikki.
So Nikki wants to know, how do you know when a rind is edible or not?
The magic question. So
actually, and this is interesting.
Yes.
Specific to this cheese. She
Sure.
said if she did not know, or you didn't say, or somebody said,
you would not have eaten
she
this.
wouldn't have eaten this rind.
It doesn't look like an edible rind,
So-
right? You look at this and you might think, no, I'm going to skip that one. So excellent question, Nikki, and one that so many people ask all the time. So it's great that you're asking it. So how we know whether to eat a rind is the vast majority of the time you're going to want to eat the rind of a cheese. A lot of people will think of the rind as something other than the cheese, like, oh, it's somehow the exterior of the cheese. The rind is part of the cheese. So the vast majority of the time you want to enjoy the rind. It doesn't always mean it will be your favorite part. Some people might find the rind to be a texture that they don't love, or a flavor they don't love, or an aroma that they don't love. You always want to try it unless there are a few things in place. So wax rinds, we never want to eat wax. We never want to eat paper. So you'll notice like this Brines rind, for instance, has a very, very hard age, and they have impressed in here some wax paper. So this would be a rind that you would not want to eat. You can cook this rind,
Tilt that a
however.
little bit more.
Oh, sorry, sure.
There, that's
Yeah,
better.
so you can cook this rind. You can eat down to the rind and then toss this into any soup or sauce that you're making. But you wouldn't want to necessarily eat that rind
Even though there's wax
straight.
on it, you could toss it into a soup.
I mean, this is not a super thick. Now, if you had, for instance, a Gouda that has one of those very thick wax rinds that peels off, just peel that off and throw that away. You don't want to be eating that or cooking with that. It's like almost like a soft candle wax. So you don't want to eat paper. You don't want to eat wax. If it is covered in very large leaves, like sycamore leaves or syrah leaves, you would not want to eat those. But for the most part, even when a rind looks kind of nubbly and strange, you can still eat it.
Ash.
You can, oh, absolutely eat ash. Yes. Yeah. If there's an ash covered
Flowers.
rind, if there's ash within the rind, if there's flowers on the outside, flowers would have to be edible to be made on a cheese or on top of a cheese. They would never put like poisonous flowers on the outside of a cheese or within a cheese.
And likewise, the ash is not like they didn't burn wood. It's
it's vegetables.
vegetable ash.
It's vegetable ash. So it's like food grade ash. So you can eat that.
Food grade
I know
ash.
it sounds ridiculous, but there's actually a food grading for ash. And so the ash that is used in cheese making is food grade ash.
There you go.
Yes, it's very interesting stuff. But so Nikki, to answer your question, for the most part, we want to eat the rind. And if you don't like it, just don't eat anymore. But very few rinds will actually like not be good for you. Right. And that would be, for instance, a big thick wax rind. You obviously would not want to eat that, or syrah leaves.
All right. So
okay.
One last little comment. Well,
Please.
actually two.
Okay.
Bruno and Kristen.
Hello, Bruno and Kristen.
Think that this cheese would go really well in a mac and cheese.
Yes. So Bruno and Kristen have touched upon one of the beautiful things about all of these style of cheese. which is they tend to be, because they're so high in fat and they tend to be this wonderful, dense, creamy texture, they are almost without exception fabulous melting cheeses. So they will do great in a mac and cheese. They will do great on a grilled cheese. They will do great if you're making tartiflette, if you're melting them onto a sandwich, if you want to grate something on top of your vegetables, if you're incorporating it into any sort of cream sauce that you're making, where you want to make a cheese sauce from that. These cheeses will not only melt beautifully, but they do this wonderful thing where they maintain their flavor beautifully. So when you melt them and expose them to heat, they're not going to turn into these flavorless sort of ingredients. They will really maintain a little bit of that fruitiness and that funk, and they will still contribute spiritually to the dish. It's fabulous.
Awesome.
So,
all right.
yes,
And then the other
you're correct.
comment was from Katie Waynick.
Hello, Katie.
And I guess earlier she was hoping her toddler would get home to see the cows, and she did. And then the toddler is so excited to see our cheese friend, which I assume you must be the cheese friend, Jill. So
hello.
say
Hello, toddler.
to little Waynick.
Hello, Waynick. Welcome. Welcome to Cheeseland. May you
All right.
live here long and healthy. All right. Any other questions? Should we move on to-
one last
Sure,
question?
please,
Oh,
please.
raclette. Anna said raclette.
Yes.
So that,
Very similar raclette, yes.
Monica wants to know about these cheeses with Piedmont reds.
Yes. So one of the greatest examples of a Piedmont red is going to be a Barbera. So I would say a Barbera with these cheeses would be wonderful. I would shy away from a big Nebbiolo wine, for instance. I would stay away from Barolo, for instance, if it's one of those very, bold, big Barolos, any sort of Nebbiolo base. They're going to have good fruit and good structure. They tend to have a super high tannin level, which is why they can age so long, so beautifully. But they will sometimes clash with these slightly washed rind cheeses that can have a little bit of funk to them. So try it. It's not like it's going to harm you. It just may not be the best combination in the world, or who knows, you might hit on something that's just beautiful. But Piedmont wines very often are known for their bright and acidic nature, except for the Nebbiolo family. So Barbera is a wonderful, wonderful option to try.
All right, I'm going to put up Mr. Studer.
Yes, show Mr. Studer.
You didn't put umlauts in there. I guess he doesn't have umlauts in his name?
There's no umlaut in that name. There's other umlauts.
So which one is he? The older gentleman or
The one on the
younger
left.
gentleman?
The one on the left. And this was from some years ago.
Okay.
But in there making the cheese.
In a copper vat.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Old school.
Old school.
All righty. Shall we move on to our witchy cheese next?
Yes. Somebody
All
else has already gotten into the red witch.
So
and said it's
this
pretty-
is a cheese
pretty great.
called Red Witch or Rote Hex. It's an absolutely outstanding paprika rubbed cheese. Jeff, I'm going to give you this piece of Red Witch. So Red Witch is made from unpasteurized. This is our first unpasteurized cheese. The rest are all raw milk. So this is a raw milk, cow's milk cheese. It's aged for about 6 months, rubbed with paprika to give it this beautiful sort of orangey rind, which is so gorgeous. This rind, again, is edible. So give it a try. See if you like it. If you don't like it, that's cool, but try it. It will add some interesting texture and flavor to your cheese.
Wow, this one's great too.
It's pretty fantastic. So this is made by a cheesemaker named Christian Oberle, who's a third generation cheesemaker. And this cheesemaking facility has been around since 1918 in his family. So it's been around for just over 100 years, which is pretty amazing. And is, again, still under the same control of the same family members. Now it's Christian who is running things there. And this cheese, if you can see, if you put up the picture of the cheese hole,
Yeah.
you can see the witch flying on it. So this cheese is created for a pre-Lent festival called Carnival in Switzerland, though, which is a 3-day long, just hog wild party. And they dress up there in really exotic, fabulous costumes, almost like our Halloween. So this is why this cheese was created.
You said pre-Lent, so it's like Mardi Gras then.
It's like Mardi Gras. It's like Mardi Gras time of year. It's in February, but they dress up more in like creepy costumes like Halloween.
Wow, that's pretty neat.
So it's kind of cool. So this is Red Witch made in honor of that festival, which is really cool.
So the team in Shirlington was on the ball, and Liz and Joanna both got to see up close and personal the wheel there.
Oh, that's fabulous.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you were able to see that. What good timing. So often we just chop right into those, and that's really, really cool. I'm gonna go ahead and take a taste of this.
I'm going to
Again, this wonderful fruitiness.
I'm going to mispronounce this name, but Joost Izan says, I actually don't know if that name is either a man or woman, but they've been to Switzerland for this, I guess, and they say it's like Halloween for a week, and it's pretty awesome.
It's a super hardcore party.
Sorry if I didn't pronounce that correctly. Joanna, best rind I've had. That was a pretty good rind. I agree. It's
wonderful with the wine. So this is what I'm talking about. The way to really test this is you want to take first a sip of your wine, really let it coat your palate. Coat it with the flavors, but also cleanse. So what the acidity does in a wine that is so beneficial to our cheese experience is that it actually, the acid cleans your palate, physically cleans it, so that your taste buds are all primed and ready for the next bite. So I'm going to take a sip of my wine, bite of my cheese. Let it zip around in there.
Let it zip around, and the witch is just.
Then another sip of the wine. So that's the best way to really illustrate to you how a wine can make the flavors of a cheese pop. This is obviously a flavorful cheese. This is not a timid cheese. But when you take a sip of that wine after a bite of this cheese, the subtle depth and character of the cheese, what lies below, so to speak, just leaps out of this cheese. And it's all because of that acidity that's being brought by the wine. It's so special. It's so beautiful and delicious.
So
I'm gonna pour myself.
Remember, Nikki asked that question earlier about the rind. And so she said here that she's actually had Red Witch at least several times before.
Okay. Wow.
And she'd never had the rind, but she had the rind this time. So you coached her up.
I'm glad. And I think you'll find that to be the case with the vast majority of cheeses. And again, you'll sometimes miss the mark. Like you'll taste a rind and you'll go, ooh, I don't like that one. That one's very X or Y, or that one has a texture I just don't love. So just don't eat anymore. But it's always good to try the rind first. Any other questions, Jeff, before we move on to our next beautiful, beautiful cheese? A lot of what I'm trying to do this time with our cheeses, and I always try and talk about the people who are producing these cheeses, but in Switzerland, we spoke about the critical impact of the terroir, again, the environment on the milk, and how much it is valued and how much it is sort of revered and sort of sought after, certain terroir and certain regions. Second only to the people who are making these cheeses. So the folks that are actually producing these are like folk heroes in Switzerland. They are super, super highly regarded and adored as being almost national treasures. And it's a really, really cool sort of cultural identification that they have with their cheesemakers there. And the last two are really beautiful examples of that. So I'm excited to talk to you about these last two cheeses.
I just put up is it Christian Oberle?
Yes.
So I hadn't put him up before.
Oh, that's fine.
So he's the Red Witch guy, right?
He's the Red Witch guy.
He looks like went to MIT and is like a scientist. He doesn't.
Yes. So what is great about the Oberle cheesemakers is they take very traditional styles of Swiss cheeses. By traditional, I do mean old-fashioned recipes, and they take them in interesting and creative directions. So they will take the beloved techniques and they will just change them a little bit to roll out something that's really innovative and new, and yet still respects the history of the cheese. Red Witch is a beautiful example of that. There's no denying that this is a raw cow's milk, Alpine style, gorgeous Swiss cow's milk cheese. But it's got that beautiful paprika rind, which gives it the neat color. It makes it look beautiful as a presentation, and it sets it apart. And so it's overly kind of taking the traditional and just tweaking it a little bit and elevating it in some cases and rolling it back out again. And that's what they're really, really well known for.
All right, we got a great question here.
Please.
You're talking about these cheesemakers in Switzerland, like they're sort of celebrities. Okay, so Alex and Lauren want to know, in the US, are there cheese making celebrities, even if it's just like local?
Yes, oh, for sure. So the American artisan cheese movement is full of pioneering spirits and people who are adored for their contribution to our industry here in the United States, starting primarily back in the 1970s. And it's almost all women, at least in the beginning, women like Laura Chanel, women like Peggy Smith of Cowgirl Creamery.
Liz said Cowgirl.
Yeah. So yes, there are absolutely cheese making celebrities. And as the American artisan cheese movement has expanded and become so renowned and respected, you see more and more of these celebrities. So people like Matteo Keller from Jasper Hill, who is kind of like a rock star with regard to cheese making and cheese aging. So you absolutely have that, a little bit more of that cachet. So people who make cheese are no longer behind the scenes, and they're no longer kind of the unrecognized hero of cheese making. They are front and center, and people want so much with our American food culture to understand where their food comes from, and not only where it comes from, but whom it comes from, right? So it's a pretty special time in American food, where we have really begun to depart from the concept of industrial food making, where your food is kind of anonymous and you don't know the origin and you don't know the hands behind it, to really wanting to celebrate the individuals and their pioneering spirit. So it's absolutely made that transformation.
And that's really across the board, right? Maybe it started with the celebrity chef, but even
for sure, Wolfgang Puck was a huge part of that. I'm sorry, Alice Waters from Chez Panisse. I mean, yes, they're absolutely.
But in the actual the sourcing of the food, like the polyface guy, I'm drawing a blank on his name.
Joel Salatin.
And then there was the other guy, he wrote a book as well. He was a farmer. We went to Bastille and they had a dinner there, maybe, I don't know, 6, 7
Smith
years.
Meadows.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
Similar kind of
that
thing.
he was cool.
Yeah, very cool.
Yes. So I think in America, rightfully so, we are really beginning to, and not just now, but over the past 20 years or so, have really begun to recognize and appreciate and celebrate the crafters of these foods. So it's less just about the quality of the food, which is excellent, but even more so sometimes about the story of the person making the food, which can be super, super special.
Wow, this is awesome. Jackie and David knew exactly who we were talking about. Forrest Pritchard.
Yes, that's him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Spectacular. So Dave and Anita nominate you as a local cheese celebrity.
Thank you, Dave and Anita. I'm sure you're not biased at all, but thank you. I appreciate that. You're very kind. Okay.
Awesome. So what are we on to?
We're going to move on to our last two cheeses made by two of the ultimate folk heroes of Swiss cheese making, and actually a third secret person who I'll tell you about as well.
Secret person.
Well, sort of secret person. I'll explain it in a minute. So the first cheese has this beautiful, beautiful nubbly rind. It's just gorgeous.